tell a story about a specific instance, a teaching moment that you recall while being at the office?
Oh God. Yeah, this is a real how much time you got kind of a deal, because I could tell you 1,000.
I got as much time as you'd like.
Okay, so I'll answer both of the questions, which are different. The day one stuff, the PhD level class, day one, in the same way that a professor of Newtonian physics would write F equals MA on the board, and then everyone would scribble it down in their notebooks or type, I guess. And this is showing you how old I am, that I'm still imagining people taking notes with a pen.
I still scribble.
There you go. So the F equals MA of sitcom writing is stuff like, okay, here's what matters in stories, right? What matters is characters' motivations for doing what they do, the plots having good twists and turns in them, because comedy is all about thwarting expectation. And if people see something coming, then they won't laugh. Being surprising. Escalation is another big one, right? If you see a story where the same thing happens 2 scenes in a row, you get bored. So whatever happens in the second scene has to be bigger and more intense than what happened in the first one. There are certain things that I think you would establish as F equals MA type rules that you would then undermine, right? Like you would say there's a certain quality that executives like to refer to as likability, which is a kind of a reductive term, but it essentially means that if audiences don't in some way identify with characters, they don't like those characters. And that doesn't mean, in the world we're in now, and this has been true probably since, roughly speaking, The Sopranos came on board, and suddenly the main character of the biggest show on TV was a sociopathic mobster who killed people regularly. You wouldn't call it, strictly speaking, likability, but you might call it relatability. You might say the main characters on a show have to have some aspect of them that people can see in themselves, or at least identify with, or say, I have a cousin who's like that, or something like that. Those are the amino acids, right? That's like the basic building blocks of life. Yeah. As far as teaching moments, as many aphorisms as Lorne Michaels had about comedy, Greg has just as many. And I'll give you one example. So I wrote an episode of The Office in the second season that was it was a Christmas episode. And it was an episode where they were doing a Secret Santa. So they'd each drawn a name, and they had, this person is buying a little gift for this person, and this person is buying a little gift for this person, or whatever. And the premise, which was really funny, was that Michael didn't like his gift, right? So Michael's gift came from a character named Phyllis on the show, and she had knitted him some oven mitts. And he just didn't like them. He didn't think they were a big enough gift. And he had drawn Ryan. Ryan was the temp, played by BJ Novak. He had drawn Ryan in the Secret Santa gift exchange draw, and he had bought Ryan a video iPod. So even though it's a classic Michael Scott thing, because there was a $25 limit or whatever, and because he was so desperate to be loved, just bought this kid a $400 video iPod. So he gave a video iPod to his person, and then he got for his gift a woven oven mitt, and just lost his mind. And so he changed it from a Secret Santa to a Yankee swap, which is where you can swap your gift for any of the other gifts. It's another game, right? Because he wanted to unload the oven mitts and get something better. So when I wrote the episode, I did this thing where I was like, okay, well, the reality, I've been a part of many Secret Santas and many offices, and I know how you do it. You do a draw. So I put all the characters' names into a hat, and I did a real draw. I said, like, okay, Oscar is drawing now, and I picked out, and it was Creed. Okay, Oscar's going to buy a gift for Creed. So I did it the way it would really be done. And there was one of the characters had Angela. Angela was a character on the show who was very uptight and fairly religious, and she was very prim. She didn't like to curse. She didn't do anything that was sort of like, she was just very, very uptight. And so I had in the script that someone bought for her a sort of vaguely Christian kind of self-help book that was sort of like, it was like 7 habits for following in the light of God or something like that. It was just like a sort of one of those books that are perfectly lovely and helpful for people who are looking for some guidance in their lives and who are religious. And it didn't factor into the plot at all. It was just a detail of the script that's what she got. And Greg was like, no, we should come up with something else. And I was kind of confused because I was like, it's not even a joke. We don't even make a joke about it. It's just literally like she opens the gift and then that's what it is. But he was like, yeah, here's the thing though. We already know that Angela is religious, and we already know that she is the kind of person who would buy a book like that or who would like a book like that. And what would be better is if there was something that were like overlapping in the overlapping area of the Venn diagram of what we already know about her and what we can learn about her that would broaden her character, right? That would make her into a more interesting person, dimensionalize her a little bit. And so what we came up with was that she loved those kind of photographs that people take where babies are dressed like adults. You know that there's like a weird corner of the photography world where it's like a baby but dressed like a jazz musician with like a fedora and like a toy saxophone. And somehow, I don't know why, but somehow that was like, that's perfect. Like that is exactly the kind of thing that she would like.
May I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, please.
How the hell does that come out of the ether? Did it just pop into someone's head? I mean, how did it land there?
I can tell you definitively that I did not pitch it because I believe I was completely unaware of this phenomenon. But that's why you have a room full of funny people, because you just say, okay, here's the character, here's the subject matter. Pitch on what she would like, pitch on some aspect of the culture. And I wish I remember too, someone pitched that and immediately was like, oh my God, that's perfect. I don't know why, but that's perfect. So we changed it to someone got her this poster of two babies dressed like jazz musicians. And again, it didn't factor into the episode in any meaningful way, but that poster was then added to the set. She put it up next to her. Later in the season, we designed an entire episode over the fact that another person who sat near her hated it so much that there was like an HR complaint lodged against her. And it flowered. It just bloomed into this thing that lasted for years and years and years. And so Greg's thing, and this is what that Vanity Fair article is referencing, was like, at the end of every episode of the show, you should have at least a little bit more information about some of the characters than you did before the episode started. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It doesn't have to be like, my dad was, arrested as a serial murderer or something. It doesn't have to be some gigantic thing. It just has to be a little bit more than what you knew before. And as long as that's the case, the show continues to be more interesting and kind of grow and expand.